Young girls, don't cry. You're not alone in the fight. The broken, the unspoken, we can't heal if the wound is open. It feels like no one cares to see your heart is bleeding. You cry is ignored when you are ill. When the wrong, the pain and lies are kept a secret to gain for their own benefit. Be strong, be brave. You're too far away from the grave. Stand tall. We are here. We don't know the spirit of fear. We will overcome. Yes, we will overcome. We will overcome. Yes, we will. We will overcome. Yes, we will overcome. We will overcome. Yes, we will. Liberia, when will we stop being the inferior? Our vulnerable children stripped of their innocence. It feels like no one cares to see your heart is bleeding. The cry is ignored when you are ill. When the wrong, the pain and lies are kept a secret to gain for their own benefit. Be strong, be brave. You're too far away from the grave. Stand tall. We are here. We don't know the spirit of fear. We will overcome. Yes, we will overcome. We will overcome. Yes, we will. We will overcome. Yes, we will overcome. We will overcome. Yes, we will. Liberia, we can't give up. Liberia, we can't give up. Liberia, we can't give up. They have turned their back. Liberia, we can't give up. Young girls, don't cry. You're not alone in the fight.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, men and women. Welcome to Commander Galpohkpa Chesson Talk Show. The weekend begins. Rise and shine. It is 41 degrees in Providence, Rhode Island right now. We rise to know that there is a viral blizzard about to hit the United States of America. A COVID 19 viral blizzard. It is the winter wet season. People are indoors. We know this disease spreads when we're all clustered up together. And here we are now. The Omicron virus, the variant, multiplies. In a few days, it has doubled. It multiplies. It spreads rapidly. Our hospitals are getting crowded. We expect more deaths in our society. We have to take heed and govern ourselves. Right now, New York is closing down. The entertainment industry has announced they're closing down for the rest of the year, the rest of the season. Things, mandates are starting up again. And we have three requirements now: testing, shots, boosters. If you're not taking your vaccinations, if you haven't taken your boosters, you better make sure you're being tested regularly. Take heed and govern yourselves accordingly. We also know that there is a cyber attack going on in America right now and throughout the world. Worldwide, cyber attack. Right now, 50,000 Facebook users' accounts have been hacked. And you don't know who they are. So all your information, all your documents are targeted. All us on Facebook. Corporations, governments throughout the world are being targeted by hackers. So this is what's going on. Let's get into my lesson for this morning. My first topic is the whole Liberian society is corrupt. 2, removing Liberians' dark cloud. And 3, standing for Liberia. Let me take a break and we'll start my first topic. The whole Liberian society is corrupt. If you all have been listening to my lessons recently, I talked about how since 1847 to this very day, it appears that Liberian people have only had 2 administrations, Tubman and Talbot. Why? Because one administration prolonged itself in existence over an extended period of time that we lost our sense of democracy. We lost our sense of decency. We lost our sense of honesty. We lost our sense of trustworthiness. We lost our sense of dignity. And we thought we had it all, but we didn't. Why? Democracy is a precious system of governance. What steers democracy is catalyst for change. Without that catalyst for change in our democratic society, our democracy dies. Our system fails. And when any leader takes over our system and prolongs his regime in power and stagnates creativity, innovation, progress, and advancement, our society dies. And that what happened to Liberia. When we were founded in 1847, from 1847 to Tottenham time, we had a progression in governance. First, it started with 2 years of presidency. After every 2 years, there was an election and there was a new president. Then they went to 4 years. When they went to 4 years, that lasted for several years until Tottenham and until Barclay, I think it was Edwin Barclay, became president. Then he tried to change the constitution of Liberia. And when he tried to tamper it with it, that when Tottenham came in. And it's all a mess because they try to use Tottenham as a stooge so Barclay could step out, put Tottenham in, excuse me, revise the constitution of Liberia, come back in and move Tottenham and sit for a longer term of leadership. And that didn't work. When he put Tottenham there, Tottenham entrenched himself in power. And from that time, I think Barclay was in the early, 30s and 40s, whatever Barclay was. When Tottenham became president of Liberia, Tottenham entrenched himself in power. And from then until 1970, Tottenham remained president of Liberia for 27 long years. Do you know what it means to remain president of a country for 27 years in the system of democracy? It means that you have to kill all the mind, all the constitutional enlightened minds, all the people that believe in what the constitution and laws of the country stand for. You got to get rid of them. Either get rid of them or silence them, but you got to get rid of them. Because there's no way that one president will come into power and it's supposed to last 2 terms or 1 4-year term. And he changed the laws to stay for 2 years. Then he stay after his 2 years, after he changed the law to stay for 2 terms. After the 2 terms, then he changed the law again to say that there should be no term limits. And thereafter, he consistently wins the election because he deceived the Liberian people. He had enablers, but they were innocent enablers, like my grandfather, Ben Freeman. Ben Freeman didn't intend for Tottenham to stay in power for 27 years. No. But he believed in the leadership of Tottenham for the time he was serving him. He believed in what Tottenham stood for. So When our indigenous people trusted my grandfather, and by trusting him, he took on one of their daughters as his wife, my grandmother. It was sealed. They trusted my grandfather, and my grandfather trusted Tutman and brought all the people that trusted him and submitted them to Tutman regime and deposed my grandfather and got rid of him. So when they got rid of my grandfather, Tutman had all the support of the indigenous people of my grandfather and all the other people. My grandfather brought Boto Tamatela, Boto Barclay, all the chiefs, he brought them and put them in the House of Representatives to represent the indigenous people. Because when the indigenous people were admitted into citizenship of Liberia and we all became citizens, my grandfather was a lawyer, and my grandfather knew that it were taking hard tax for these people. They needed representation. They needed a voice in the leadership of the country, and they had no voice. So who were the voices for the indigenous society at that time? They were the chiefs. They were the most enlightened people of the indigenous society that could communicate with the settlers who were American Liberians, my people. So what they did, my grandfather pleaded with them to bring all the chiefs into Monrovia and put it in the House of Legislature so that whatever decision was made in the House of Legislature, it could be a representative decision of all Liberian people. And that's how the chiefs came to serve in our legislature. So when the chiefs came, they had to build a house for them. On Camp Johnson Road, right near where they had, right between, right opposite AME Zion Academy, Zion School there, and the Zion Academy there. Not Zion, yeah, the AME Zion, the AME church on that side there. Right opposite it was the chief compound. That where all the chiefs stayed when they came to Monrovia to represent the indigenous people. All of them had a room there. And for years, that was the chief's compound. And I grew up knowing that was the chief's compound. You know? But we knew our chiefs could not read and write. But we didn't know, and I didn't know, that my grandfather did that to give them the chance to have a voice in what the government of Liberia was doing. So when they all came into the legislature, because of their ignorance of Western civilization and education and leadership, it was so say one, so say all. And that's where the habit of so say one, so say all came from. Because our indigenous people came to learn. But when they poisoned my grandfather and took him out of the show, there was nobody there to teach our indigenous people governance the Western way. So instead of teaching them, they bamboozled them. They used them. Tubman gave them cars, money, all the good things made them feel good. And everything Tubman said, they agreed to it. So Tubman was a man, and he became an absolute ruler because those were the chiefs of all the tribes in our House of Representatives. Everything Tubman said and the chiefs agreed to it, the people did. That were the absolute chiefs. That was indirect rule. Just as the British ruled the British colony to the chiefs, that just had Tubman rule Liberia through the House of Legislature. And that what is doing right now today. In a similar manner. That what happened today. And since Tubman time, till today, Liberia's legislature has not changed. It's still ignorant. We still put the ignoramuses in our legislature, people who can read and write, people who don't know nothing. And we can't do that no more because we pay the price for it. We pay a serious and severe price for it. We can't do that no more. We saw Tawa made Tottenham rule Liberia for 27 years because all the chiefs were at his backing call. All of them, everything Tottenham said was okay. And that's how the chiefs lost their significance as the dominant leaders of the tribe. They became more like political leaders instead of leaders of inheritance coming through bloodline and all of that. It became political because after Tottenham, who controlled them, they started appointing chiefs instead of the chiefs being through hereditary lines. They broke that hereditary line and they started making a political appointment. So the chiefdomship in Liberia lost its significance. And people didn't respect the chiefs no more because everything was for the government. All the chiefs were everything the government said, the chiefs agreed to it. So it was so say one, so say all. And that's how the chiefs lost their significance as hereditary leaders of their tribes. It became through political appointments. And Tadma ruled Liberia from then on. So for us, Liberians, our lives were turned upside down. Our country became totally corrupt because here our indigenous people never learned the Western ways. So many of them didn't accept it, even though they served, their chiefs were appointed into the legislature. They broke ties with their chiefs because they saw it as political and serving the Congo people. So the chiefs lost their significance. And it all became so say one, so say all. And we lost our democratic ideal. Because after Tottenham had control of the chiefs, nobody else in Liberia could question Tottenham. Because everything he told them, they did it. The military was approved by the chiefs. The indigenous people from the villages came, and all of them were loyal to Tottenham. To Tottenham. Even when I was growing up and went to school, and when we said, no, this is not right, Tottenham is wrong, the indigenous people would get pissed off with us. Right now, some of them hate me because of that. They say your father benefited. Why are you talking against Tottenham? Tottenham is the man. You shouldn't be talking against Tottenham. Our people were bamboozled totally by Tottenham. Nobody could say nothing against Tottenham. So Tottenham ruled Liberia for 27 unbroken years, changing the laws, arresting people as he wanted to. Tottenham ran a police state. That's why after Tottenham died, Topper wanted to punish Bestman and what the other guy name? Bestman and oh, what the other guy name, man? What the other police guy name? I forgot his name. That was Bestman and Campbell. These two guys were the police security people. And they did whatever they wanted to do to man. These guys arrested whoever they wanted to arrest. Anybody they wanted to arrest, they arrested you. Our country was a police state. Nobody could talk against Tottenham. Anybody reported you, say you said something against Tottenham, they're coming to get you. Everybody was a PRO, a public relation officer. That's how Tottenham ran the country. Everybody was paid to report on other Liberians. We became snitches on each other. Everybody was getting paid. Everybody on the security payroll. I remember they came to me so many times, even on the tower. Tower wanted to perpetuate that same thing. But many of us kicked against it because we knew how people misused it during Tottenham time. So many people were hurt. You couldn't say nothing against Tottenham. People were lied on. All you had to go and say they meant to say something against Tottenham. That's when then we send the police to arrest you and flog you. Whether or not they had evidence on you, they will flog you to put the be Jesus, the fear of be Jesus in you and your family. Then they will let you go. People were always arrested. Torba himself were always threatening of being arrested. That was Torba when he became president. He wanted to punish Bestman and Campbell because they always used to have Tottenham either slapping Torba or doing something to Torba. So our country was a police state. Nobody was safe in that state. And Tottenham ruled with a heavy hand for 27 long years. That corrupted our whole system. That corrupted our whole country. Every day, do you know that on Saturdays, people used to dress up just to go visit Tottenham to get money? Every Saturday, every damn Saturday, half of the city used to get up and get dressed to go visit Tottenham. There used to be long lines from in the morning to in the evening. From Saturday morning to Saturday evening, you got long lines of Liberians standing outside the president mansion to go see the president. And everybody got pocket change. Everybody was giving pocket change. Where did Tottenham get that money from? That was Liberian people money. Everybody that went to see Tottenham every Saturday got pocket change. Got the Saturday. Got the week's pay allowance. Got something for Tottenham. Tottenham did what he wanted to do. He bought yacht. He bought everything he wanted to do. He didn't like playing. Tottenham didn't like to fly. So he stuck with the water. That's why he bought a yacht. Everywhere he went his yacht. He had a Rolls Royce. Tottenham lived lies. The Queen Elizabeth loved him. The man used to know how to finesse. He was smart. But he didn't love Liberia. Tottenham did not love Liberia and Liberian people. Tottenham loved himself and his family. And this is what our country is suffering from today. Our leaders love themselves and their family more than they love Liberia and Liberian people. And our country cannot grow and progress like that. Our country will remain corrupt, dysfunctional, and unconstitutionally governed if we continue to have leaders who love themselves more than they love our society. Liberian society is corrupt because our leaders made it corrupt. Our leaders did what they did to our society to keep themselves in power over us. Forever. That's what we're going through right now. People killing each other. Ellen was the only one that gave her power. But she still hasn't given her power. Because all the way she gave her power, she gave the power to Wia. Wia has undying loyalty to her over Liberia. All the corruption and stealing and nepotism that she's done and still doing, they're leaving money in the budget for her and all. So Ellen didn't give her our country. This is just an extension of her administration. And the stealing goes on. The corruption goes on. Our society can't change because we still got corrupt leaders leading us, and the leaders that are supposed to set examples of decency, of honesty, of constitutional leadership and direction are still being suppressed. The time of the Liberian people is now. Let me take a break. I'll start my second topic. Removing Liberian's dark cloud. For my first lesson, we have been under a cloud of corruption, under a cloud of nepotism and evil, under a cloud of selfishness, under a cloud of neglecting the Liberian people for a few people. So we've had this dark cloud over us from Tottenham time. It came over Topper administration. Topper couldn't do nothing. The people were tired with Topper and Tottenham. Tottenham had been president for 27 years. Under the 27 years, Topper had been president for 18 of those 27 years or longer. The Liberian people were tired with that whole regime. And here was Topper now. He was not as strong as Tottenham. He didn't believe in what Tottenham believed in. He believed in freeing the Liberian people, rather bringing a system of constitutional democracy into our society. But the records of the past and his current means of fighting the old order to stay in power and all of that did not fare well for Topper regime. And that was Topper regime was overthrown. It was so sad that my father and all of them were caught up in it because my father and them were from the old regime. My poor father was brought into here by the society and all of that. Masons and all that. They got behind to be there and he followed them and put himself in there to rule Liberia, knowing that Topper them were weak. Topper was not as strong as Tottenham. Topper did not possess the gift that Tottenham had, or having or ignorant indigenous populace. When Topper became president, our indigenous people were enlightened. Our indigenous people were more mainstream. They were more part of the Liberian society. Then Topper himself expanded that by sending more Liberians abroad to get educated. And he did that to Eastern countries, Czechoslovakia, Romania, all these socialist countries. And these guys came back with socialist mentality. And that's how we got in the cause of the people. The struggle continues. Aluta continua. All the revolutionary came back into our country. With the people coming back from the East and all these socialists from the West. Barker, Matthew, Tipote, all of them. So here we are today, still suffering from these people. Because that dark cloud that hung over our head since the Tottenham administration is still hanging over our head. Because there are still people who don't want to adapt change, who don't want to accept change, who don't know change. One must be forced into accepting change because it is necessary for us to remove this dark cloud of Tottenham and Talbot that is over us. We got to get rid of this dark cloud. This cloud of corruption and evil and keeping our society under one man rule for 20, 30 years is evil. It's what got us here today. And after Tottenham, after Talbot, after being independent for 170 years, we still have not learned a thing. We're still a young nation. Actually, Liberia is just born under Ellen Johnson Sirleaf because we've been fighting the rest of the time. Tottenham, Talbot Town was Town was not really any time in Liberian history. He was a military leader. So we came from Tottenham, looking at Tottenham as the first administration of Liberia because he stayed in power for so long. We know nothing else. We only know Tottenham, Talbot, the interim government, the Civil War, Ellen, to Ellen, Charles Taylor, Ellen, to those are the only few people we know. And all through our history, the only stabilizing time we had was during Talbot and Tottenham, partly Doe, and now under Ellen, we are, and partly under Charles Taylor. This is the only peaceful time we really know. The rest of the time, our country was in a state of limbo. The interim governments, all of that, were in a state of limbo. So we've come a long way, but we haven't come a long way. And we got this dark cloud of corruption from top of the regime still hanging over us that we got to get rid of. It came over us and it got worse since Tobit with the killing of our people, the splitting of the blood. We got this cloud hanging over us. We must get rid of it. How do we get rid of it? We get rid of it by praying for good leaders, by finding those people in our society who we trust and know through their track records of honesty, of trustworthiness and decency that we can trust to change our country. People who are not changing, people who not let people, as soon as you shake it, they change. As soon as the breeze hit them hard, they blow another way. No, we want steadfast, good leaders who we know have track record and not running for power, not fighting for glory, not fighting for money to steal money. We got no people in Liberia, but we got to find them. We got to tap them to be our leaders, or else we will not be able to move this dark cloud that is over us. And Jesus wants us to get rid of this cloud. But how do we do it? We got to come together. We got to understand the purpose of our Constitution and our laws, and the purpose of unification, integration, and solidarity, and why these things matter to us today more than ever before. They matter. Unification, integration, coming together to punish those who have done us wrong. And for those who have been neglected, show them love. Okay? Let me take a break now and start my final topic. Liberia has nobody to stand for it but us. Liberia has nobody to fight for it but us. Liberia has nobody to care for it but us. We are the inheritance of this Liberia. It is up to us to ensure that this nation survive intact with its people united, solidified, amalgamated, and coming together each and every day to understand who we are as a people, to appreciate one another, to love one another, to be proud to marry one another, to build families with one another. We got to practice intermarriage. We got to get deeper into intermarriage with our tribal people, spreading our religion of Christianity better than ever before, more truthful, more blessed, more anointed than ever before. So it's up to us. Can all these forces around us help us? That begs to understand. And in all of that, we can't neglect our own. We can't neglect our own. We must recognize who we are as a people, what we stand for as a nation, what we value, what do we value as a nation. And once we recognize all these things, and we set standards and principles and guidance and direction of how we want to approach these things, our lives become better. Things begin to change in a positive way. But we can't just jump and say we want change without any guidance or direction or leadership or positive learning. Standing up for Liberia. We got to do it with the understanding that our goal is not only to change Liberia, but to unify our people. To understand where we came from all these years in the past, where we want to go, and what it takes for us to get there. That's it for me today. Stand up for Liberia. We've come a long way. The struggle hasn't been easy. The struggle hasn't been easy because we had a lot of hustlers among us. And all those who struggle must know they are patriots and they can't give up because the call must be sustained continually, continually, continually. Aruta. Continue. Have a good day. My class is done.